Captain Dong Min stared at the strange ship on his monitor screen. After 20 years of exploring space, this was the first time he had seen anything like it. The vessel looked like it was made of crystal, glowing with soft blue light. It moved through space without making any sound, which was normal in space, but somehow it felt different, more peaceful. "Captain, they're trying to talk to us," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Hana, "but it's not radio signals. It's some kind of music." Dongmin listened to his headphones. Beautiful sounds filled his ears, like someone playing a glass piano mixed with wind chimes. The melody was sad but also hopeful. Even though he couldn't understand the words, he felt emotions in the music. Fear, sadness, and a deep longing for help. "Can we answer them back?" Dongmin asked. "I'm trying to copy their musical patterns," Hana replied, her fingers dancing over her keyboard. "Maybe they'll understand we want to talk." The Earth ship Horizon's Edge had been on a routine patrol mission near the edge of human space when they found the crystal ship. Earth had been exploring space for 50 years, but they had never met any aliens before. Most people thought humans were alone in the universe. The alien ship suddenly changed its song. This time the music sounded excited and relieved. Through his telescope, Dongmin could see the crystal ship getting closer. It was beautiful, like a giant gem floating in space. "Captain," said his science officer, Dr. Ji Woo, "I'm reading life signs on that ship, but they're not like anything I've seen before. The beings inside seem to be made of some kind of living crystal." Dongmin felt his heart beating fast. This was the most important moment in human history. "Open a channel to Earth Command. Tell Admiral So Young we've made contact with aliens." Hours later, Admiral So Young arrived with a small fleet of Earth ships. She was a tough woman who had spent her life in the military, but even she looked amazed when she saw the crystal ship. The aliens finally managed to communicate using simple math and pictures. They called themselves the Villani. Their leader was someone named Kiravel, which meant Song of Hope in their language. The Villani's story was heartbreaking. They had been running from something called the Galactic Council for months. Their home planet had special crystals that could store huge amounts of energy. The Council wanted these crystals for their war machines, but the Villani refused to give them up. The crystals were sacred to their people, and taking them would destroy their world. "The Council has 12 powerful species," Kiravel explained, through her musical language, which the humans were slowly learning to understand. "They control most of the galaxy. When a species refuses to obey them, they destroy that species completely." Dongmin felt sick to his stomach. "How many of your people escaped?" "Only 50,000, Kiravel replied, her song becoming very sad. "We had 5 billion people on our world. The Council ships came and gave us 1 day to leave. Most of our people couldn't escape in time." Admiral So Young listened to the translation with a hard look on her face. She had seen wars before, but nothing like this. "How long have you been running?" 8 months, Kiravel answered. "We are tired and our ships are breaking down. We need a place to rest, but every species in the galaxy is afraid to help us. The Council punishes anyone who helps their enemies." The Admiral looked at Captain Dongmin, then at her other officers. "What do you think? Should we help them?" "Yes," Dongmin said immediately. "We can't just let them die." Dr. Jiwoo nodded. "They've shared some of their technology with us already. Their harmonic systems could help us improve our communications and energy production." Admiral So Young made her decision. "Kiravel, we want to help your people. We can offer you 3 planets in our space where you can build new homes." The Villani leader's song became so beautiful that several human crew members started crying. "You would do this for strangers? Even knowing it might bring the Council's anger on you?" "That's what friends do," the Admiral replied. "And I hope we can be friends." The next few months were amazing. The Villani refugees settled on 3 worlds that humans had discovered but never used. The planets were perfect for the crystal beings, with lots of sunlight and mineral-rich soil where they could grow their crystal homes. The Villani shared their technology freely with humans. They taught Earth scientists how to build better communication systems using harmonic frequencies. They showed human engineers how to make energy more efficiently. Most importantly, they shared their knowledge of space and the many species that lived among the stars. Captain Dongmin often visited the Villani settlements. He became good friends with Kiravel and learned to speak some of their musical language. The Villani were peaceful people who loved art, music, and growing beautiful crystal gardens. They were nothing like the warlike species that controlled the Galactic Council. "Your people are very strange," Kiravel told him one day as they walked through her crystal garden. "Most species in the galaxy only help others when they expect something in return. But humans helped us just because we needed help." "Maybe that makes us naive," Dongmin replied. "But I'd rather be naive than cruel." President Teho visited the Villani worlds and was amazed by what he saw. Human and Villani children played together, even though they looked completely different. Human farmers learned to grow crops alongside Villani crystal forests. The two species were becoming true friends. But the peace couldn't last forever. Earth's long-range sensors began picking up strange signals from deep space. Large fleets were moving toward human territory. The signals matched the descriptions the Villani had given them of Council warships. Defense Minister Jinwoo called an emergency meeting. "We're seeing at least 200 ships heading our way. Based on Villani data, these are definitely Council vessels." President Teho looked tired. "How long until they arrive?" 3 weeks, maybe 4, Jinwoo replied. Chief Science Advisor Yoon Seo spoke up. "We've been working with Villani engineers to upgrade our ships. The new harmonic weapons and shields are better than anything we had before, but we only have 35 warships total." 35 against 200, the president said quietly. "Not good odds." Captain Dongmin was in the room and felt anger burning in his chest. "We knew this might happen when we decided to help the Villani. We can't abandon them now." Admiral So Young nodded. "The captain is right. We made a promise to protect these people. A promise is a promise." The president looked around the room at his advisors. These were good people who had never wanted a war. But sometimes war comes whether you want it or not. "Start preparing our defenses," President Teho ordered. "And send a message to every human colony. Tell them what's coming. Tell them why we're fighting. We're not just defending our territory. We're defending the idea that strong people should protect weak people, not destroy them." As the meeting ended, Captain Dongmin looked out the window at Earth's blue skies. In a few weeks, those skies might be filled with alien warships. But he felt proud of his species. Humans had found friends among the stars, and they would fight to protect those friends. On the Villani worlds, Kiravel felt the approaching danger through her crystal senses. She sang a song of sorrow for the humans, who were about to risk everything for her people. But she also sang a song of hope. Maybe, with human courage and Villani wisdom working together, they could survive what was coming. The crystal beings had lived for thousands of years, but they had never met anyone like humans before. These strange mammals were willing to fight an entire galactic empire just to keep their word to friends they had known for less than a year. Whatever happened next, the friendship between humans and Villani would be remembered forever. 3 massive ships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, exactly 4 weeks after the long-range sensors first detected them. These were not like any human vessel. They were dark, angular, and covered with weapons that looked like they could destroy entire cities with one shot. Captain Hai Jin was on duty at the orbital defense station when the alien ships arrived. She had been promoted after showing great skill during the first Villani contact. Now she watched her screens as the enemy vessels moved slowly toward Earth, like predators stalking their prey. "They're broadcasting a message," reported communications. Officer Seok. "It's in perfect English, ma'am." "Put it on the main screen," Hye Jin ordered. The face that appeared was terrifying. It looked like a giant lizard standing upright, with yellow eyes and teeth like knives. The creature wore a uniform covered in medals and symbols that probably meant it was very important. "I am Hegemarch Vextar of the Saurian Dominion," the alien said in a voice like grinding rocks. "I speak for the Galactic Council. You will surrender the Villani criminals to us immediately. You will also accept Council authority over your species. You have one solar rotation to comply. The transmission ended, leaving silence on the human space station. One day, Captain Heejin said quietly, they're giving us 1 day to hand over our friends and become their slaves. Down on Earth, President Taeho called an emergency meeting with all his top people. The room was full of Earth's smartest and most experienced leaders, but they all looked worried. Let's hear what we know about the Galactic Council, the president said. Ambassador Kyung-ho opened his files. According to Villani records, the Council has ruled most of the galaxy for over 1,000 years. 12 species control everything. They have the strongest militaries and the most advanced technology. When they tell a species to obey, that species obeys or gets destroyed. Defense Minister Jin Woo added, our Villani friends estimate the Council has over 10,000 warships. We have 35. What about their weaknesses? Asked Chief Science Advisor Yoon Seo. They're overconfident, Dr. Ji Woo replied. They've been in power so long that they think nothing can challenge them. Also, most of their subject species hate them. The Council rules through fear, not loyalty. President Taeho was quiet for a long moment. Everyone in the room knew what they were facing. If they refused the Council's demands, Earth might be destroyed. If they agreed, humans would become slaves and the Villani would be wiped out. What does your conscience tell you to do? The president asked each person in the room. One by one, they all gave the same answer. They couldn't abandon the Villani. It didn't matter how dangerous the Council was or how powerful their fleets were. Humans had given their word, and they would keep it. The next morning, a human delegation flew up to meet the Council ships. Ambassador Kyung-ho led the group along with Captain Hyejin and several other diplomats. They had decided to try talking first, even though they didn't expect it to work. The Council ships were even more frightening up close. The largest one was 3 times bigger than Earth's biggest warship. Its hull was covered with weapons and armor that looked like it could survive anything humans could throw at it. Inside the ship, the human delegation met with 3 Council representatives. Hagemarch Vextar was there, along with 2 other terrifying aliens. One looked like a giant insect with multiple arms and compound eyes. The other was some kind of energy being that barely held together in a glowing humanoid shape. I am Klakteth, of the Hive Mind, said the insect creature in a buzzing voice. This is Zurnal of the Energy Collective. We are here to accept your surrender. Ambassador Kyung-ho stayed calm even though his heart was pounding. We're here to discuss the situation, not to surrender. There is nothing to discuss, Vextar snarled. You will hand over the Villani criminals and submit to Council authority. These are not suggestions, they are commands. Captain Heejin spoke up. The Villani are not criminals. They're refugees who asked for our help. They are property of the Council, Zurnal replied, its energy form flickering with anger. Their crystals belong to us. Their lives belong to us. Everything about them belongs to us. People are not property, Kyung-ho said firmly. Klakteth's compound eyes focused on the human ambassador. Your species is young and ignorant. You do not understand how the galaxy works. The strong rule the weak. The Council is strong. You are weak. Therefore, you will obey. The aliens then showed the humans something called the Galactic Accords. It was a long document full of rules that basically made every species in the galaxy into slaves of the Council. Species had to give the Council whatever resources they demanded. They had to send their young people to serve in Council armies. They had no right to make their own decisions about anything important. Every species in the galaxy has signed these accords, Vextar explained. Now it is your turn. Ambassador Kyung-ho read through the document and felt sick. This isn't a treaty. It's a slavery contract. Call it what you wish, Klakteth buzzed. Sign it or face the consequences. Captain Heejin looked at the alien representatives with disgust. What consequences? Complete destruction, Zurnal replied. We will sterilize your worlds. We will destroy your ships. We will wipe out your entire species. This is what we call cleansing protocols. The human delegation returned to Earth with heavy hearts. They had seen the enemy up close and knew how outmatched they were. But they also knew they could never sign those accords or hand over their Villani friends. That evening, President Tejo addressed the entire planet on television. People all over Earth watched as their leader explained the situation. The Galactic Council has given us a choice, the president said. We can become slaves and betray our friends, or we can fight for our freedom and our honor. I know what choice humans will make. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every human government on Earth voted to reject the Council's demands. Military volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Factories began working around the clock to build more weapons and ships. Chief Engineer Wu Jin led teams of scientists and Villani engineers in desperate efforts to improve Earth's defenses. They worked day and night to install harmonic weapons on human ships and upgrade their shields with Villani crystal technology. On the Villani worlds, Kiravel wept crystal tears when she heard about Earth's decision. Your people are sacrificing themselves for us, she sang to Captain Dongmin. We cannot ask you to do this. You didn't ask, Dongmin replied. We chose. That's what friends do. The deadline came and went. Ambassador Kyung Ho sent a simple message to the council ships. Earth rejects your demands. We will not betray our friends. We will not become your slaves. If you want to fight, you'll get one. Hagemarch. Vextar's reply was full of rage and disbelief. You foolish mammals. Do you think your primitive weapons can challenge the might of the Council? We have destroyed 1,000 species more advanced than yours. Maybe, Captain Hae-jin responded. But none of those species were human. The Council ships began moving toward the inner solar system, toward the 3 worlds where the Villani refugees had built their new homes. Long-range sensors detected hundreds more Council vessels approaching from deep space. Admiral So Young gathered every human warship she could find. 35 ships against an enemy fleet of over 200. The odds were hopeless, but no one suggested retreat. Today we find out what humans are really made of, the Admiral told her captains. We're not just fighting for the Villani, we're fighting for the idea that good people should protect each other, no matter the cost. The Council fleet was now only hours away from the Villani worlds. Soon, Earth would learn whether human courage could overcome impossible odds, or whether friendship and honor were just beautiful ideas that couldn't survive in a cruel galaxy. Her crystal garden, Kiravel sang a song of gratitude for the humans who were about to risk everything for her people. She had lived for over 300 years, but she had never seen anything as beautiful as human loyalty. Whatever happened, in the coming battle, the universe would never be the same. The Council fleet didn't wait the promised 72 hours. They came early, like wolves attacking in the dark. Captain Dongmin was asleep in his quarters when the alarms started screaming throughout his ship. He jumped out of bed and ran to the bridge, still putting on his uniform. Report, he shouted as he reached his command chair. 237 enemy ships just dropped out of hyperspace, his tactical officer replied with fear in his voice. They're heading straight for Haven's Rest. Haven's Rest was the largest of the 3 Villani refugee worlds. Over 800,000 crystal beings lived there, along with 50,000 human colonists who had volunteered to help build the new settlements. It was a beautiful world where children of both species played together in crystal gardens and learned each other's languages. Admiral So Young's voice crackled over the communication system from her flagship. All ships, Battle Formation 7. We're going to protect those civilians with everything we have. Captain Dongmin looked at his tactical display and felt his stomach drop. 15 human ships against an armada that blocked out the stars. The enemy vessels were massive, bristling with weapons that could crack planets, but there was no choice. Innocent people were depending on them. Take us in, he ordered. Maximum speed. The human fleet raced toward Haven's Rest, their new harmonic, weapons charging up with a deep humming sound. The Villani technology had made their ships stronger, but not strong enough to face odds like this. Captain Hae-jin commanded the destroyer Defiance Hope, one of the fastest ships in the human fleet. She had volunteered for the most dangerous job, getting close to the Villani worlds to coordinate civilian evacuations. Ye-jin to all evacuation transports, she broadcast. You have maybe 20 minutes before those ships reach firing range. Get as many people off the surface as you can. Down on Haven's Rest, human and Volani families were running to the evacuation ships. But there weren't enough ships, and there wasn't enough time. The planet had nearly 1 million inhabitants, and the transports could only carry a few thousand at once. Kiravel stood in her crystal garden, singing a farewell song to the world her people had built. She could feel the approaching darkness in the harmonic frequencies that connected all Volani. This beautiful place where her people had finally found peace was about to become a graveyard. "We have to go," shouted Dr. Hayes, a human botanist who had been studying Volani crystal growing techniques. "The transports are leaving. I'm too old to run anymore," Kiravel replied sadly. "Save the young ones. Let the old ones sing the final songs." The space battle began when the Council fleet was still hours away from the planet. Admiral So Young ordered her ships to spread out and hit the enemy from multiple directions. Maybe they could confuse the Council forces and buy more time. For the evacuations, the first exchange of fire lit up the darkness between the stars. Human ships fired their harmonic weapons, beams of energy that made the Council vessels ring like giant bells. To everyone's surprise, the new weapons actually hurt the enemy. Several Council ships had their shields collapse and their armor crack. "It's working," Captain Dongmin shouted. "The harmonic resonance is disrupting their molecular cohesion." For a few minutes, it looked like the humans might actually have a chance. Their ships were smaller and faster than the Council vessels, and the harmonic weapons were more effective than anyone had hoped. 3 enemy ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. But there were just too many of them. For every Council ship the humans destroyed, 10 more took its place. The enemy fleet surrounded the human defenders and began firing from all directions. Captain Hyejin watched in horror as the cruiser Courage's stand exploded right next to her ship. 37 human crew members died in an instant, turned to vapor by a Council plasma cannon. "All ships, this is Admiral So Young," came the desperate transmission. "We can't stop them all. Focus on protecting the evacuation transports. Save as many civilians as you can." The human fleet formed a protective screen around the transports that were still loading refugees from Haven's Rest. They fought like cornered tigers, their ships dancing between enemy fire while their guns blazed continuously. Captain Dongmin's ship, the Horizon's Edge, took a direct hit that tore through the hull. Half his crew was dead or wounded, and his engines were failing. But he kept fighting, using his ship's dying weapons to shoot down Council missiles aimed at the refugee transports. "Captain," his communications officer called out, blood running down her face from a head wound. "The transports from New Harmony and Crystal Falls are reporting the same thing. Council fleets at all 3 worlds. It's a coordinated attack." Dongmin felt cold understanding wash over him. The Council wasn't just trying to capture the Volani refugees. They were going to destroy all 3 worlds at the same time, killing every human and Volani civilian as a message to the galaxy. "Captain, Hyejin's ship was the last one still protecting the evacuation transports from Haven's Rest. Her weapons were overheating, and her shields were down to 10%. Enemy ships surrounded her like a pack of hunting beasts. "This is Captain Hyejin to all remaining transports," she broadcast. "Get out of here now. I'll buy you as much time as I can." She turned her dying ship toward the largest Council vessel and pushed her engines to maximum power. If she was going to die, she would take as many enemies with her as possible. But before she could reach the enemy ship, something terrible happened. Lights began appearing in space around all 3 Volani worlds. Not the lights of explosions, but something much worse. The lights of planet-killer weapons charging up. "No," Captain Dongmin whispered, watching his tactical display. "They're not just going to occupy the worlds. They're going to sterilize them." The Council had brought weapons designed to destroy entire planets. Weapons that could burn away every living thing on a world's surface in minutes. They weren't interested in capturing the Volani refugees alive. They wanted to make an example that would terrify every species in the galaxy. Admiral So Young's voice came over the communications one last time. "All ships, retreat immediately. There's nothing more we can do here. Save yourselves and bear witness to what happens." The planet-killer weapons fired. Haven's Rest, the beautiful world where human and Volani children had played together just hours before, became a ball of fire. The entire surface burned with temperatures hot enough to melt metal. Every crystal, garden, every home, every living thing was turned to ash in seconds. Captain Dongmin watched through his ship's cameras as 2 million people died. He saw the flash of light that meant New Harmony was gone. Then another flash from Crystal Falls. 3 worlds, 3 million innocent lives, all destroyed in less than 5 minutes. The few human ships that survived limped away from the burning worlds. They carried maybe 8,000 Villani refugees and a few thousand human survivors. Everyone else was dead. Captain He-jin's ship was badly damaged, but she was still alive. She stared at her screens, not believing what she had just witnessed. The Council hadn't just won a battle. They had committed genocide. "This is Hagemarch Vextar to any surviving human vessels," came a cold transmission from the Council fleet. "You have seen the price of defying the Council. Return to your worlds and tell your leaders that this is what happens to those who harbor our enemies. The Council's justice is absolute." The transmission was broadcast across the entire galaxy, reaching thousands of species. The message was clear. This is what happens when you cross the Galactic Council. But as the surviving human ships fled toward Earth, something unexpected was happening. The news of the massacre wasn't creating fear in the human population. It was creating something much more dangerous. Rage on Earth. President Taeho stood before the emergency session of the Global Council. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. 3 million innocent people were murdered today. Our friends, our allies, our neighbors. The Council thinks this will make us surrender. He paused, looking at the representatives from every nation on Earth. "They're wrong. This means war, total war. We will not rest until every Council ship is destroyed and every Council leader is brought to justice." The vote was unanimous. Every human nation, every colony, every settlement voted for war against the Galactic Council. Something had awakened in humanity that day. Something that the Council would soon learn to fear. In the wreckage of space around the dead worlds, Captain Dongmin rescued a few more Villani survivors from damaged ships. One of them was Kiravel, badly injured but still alive. "I'm sorry," Dongmin told her as his medical team treated her wounds. "I'm sorry we couldn't save them all." Kiravel's song was full of pain, but also full of determination. "Your people tried. You risked everything for us. Now we will help you make the Council pay for what they did." The massacre of Haven's Rest was over, but the real war was just beginning. 1 year after the massacre, Earth had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Every human colony, from the cities of Mars to the mining stations around Jupiter, had transformed into weapons factories. The peaceful world that had welcomed Villani refugees was now the center of the largest military buildup in galactic history. Chief Engineer Wu Jin stood in the massive shipyard orbiting Earth, watching workers and robots put the finishing touches on humanity's newest warship. The vessel was 3 times larger than any ship humans had built before, its hull covered with weapons that combined human engineering with Villani harmonic technology. "How many more?" asked President Taeho, who had come to inspect the construction personally. "This is number 287, Wu Jin replied. "We'll have 300 ships ready within the month. Each one is stronger than our entire fleet was a year ago." The president nodded grimly. After the massacre, every human on every world had volunteered for the war effort. Children worked in factories after school. Elderly people came out of retirement to help build weapons. Scientists who had spent their lives studying peaceful subjects now devoted themselves to creating better ways to destroy Council ships. Captain In-ho walked across the bridge of the new dreadnought Final Judgment, inspecting. His crew, half of them were human, half were Villani survivors. The 2 species had learned to work together perfectly, sharing their knowledge and skills. "Status report," he called to his first officer, Commander Jaemin. "All weapon systems online." Jaemin replied. "The harmonic resonance cannons are calibrated and ready. The phase shields are operating at full efficiency." In-ho nodded with satisfaction. The new ships were marvels of combined human and Villani technology. They could phase through solid matter for short periods, making them nearly impossible to hit. Their weapons could disrupt the molecular structure of enemy hulls, tearing apart ships that used to be invulnerable. But the most important development was happening in the intelligence division. Director Miran had spent the year building a network of allies across the galaxy. It turned out that many species hated the Council just as much as humans did. "We've made contact with the Narian Republic," Miran reported to the War Council. "They're aquatic beings who lost their ocean worlds to Council strip mining operations. They've agreed to provide us with intelligence about Council fleet movements." Defense Minister Jin Woo studied the star charts. "What about the ethereals?" "They're energy-based beings like the Council's Zurnal species, but they've been oppressed by the Council for centuries," Miran continued. "They can infiltrate Council communication networks without being detected, and the rock people of the Titan Collective have agreed to sell us rare metals for our ship construction." Admiral So Young, who now commanded Earth's war fleet, looked impressed. "So we're not fighting alone anymore?" "No," President Tejo said. "The Council made one big mistake. They thought their massacre would scare everyone into submission. Instead, it showed the galaxy that someone was finally willing to fight back. The most important ally was Kiravel herself. The Villani survivor had become humanity's chief advisor on Council technology and tactics. She worked closely with Chief Science Advisor Yun Seo to develop new weapons specifically designed to counter Council defenses. "The Council's ships use quantum-locked armor," Kiravel explained to a group of human engineers, her crystal body still bearing the scars from the massacre. "But if we can match the resonance frequency exactly, we can make their armor tear itself apart." Dr. Yunseo nodded. "We've been working on a harmonic resonance bomb that could disable entire fleets. If we can get close enough to a Council formation, we could potentially destroy dozens of ships at once." The weapon they were developing was unlike anything that had ever existed. It would create a harmonic wave that spread through space, disrupting the molecular bonds that held matter together. Any ship caught in the wave would simply fall apart. Captain Dong Min, now promoted to admiral after his heroics at Haven's Rest, oversaw the training of the new Harmony fleet. Human and Villani crews worked together on ships that seemed to sing as they moved through space. "The key is synchronization," he explained to his captains. "Human instinct and Villani harmonic sensitivity. When we work together, we can do things that neither species could do alone." The training was intense. Human pilots learned to feel the yai, harmonic frequencies that Villani could sense naturally. Villani navigators learned to think with the quick, aggressive tactics that humans preferred. The result was a fleet that moved and fought like a single organism. Intelligence reports showed that the Council was getting nervous. Their easy victory at Haven's Rest had turned into a public relations disaster. Species across the galaxy were starting to ask questions about Council authority. Some were even beginning to rebel. "The Council is pulling ships back from their frontier territories," reported Intelligence Officer Yujin. "They're consolidating their forces around their core worlds." Admiral So Young smiled coldly. "They're scared. Good. They should be." The Council had made another mistake. They had broadcast the massacre across the galaxy to frighten other species. But they had also shown everyone exactly how cruel and ruthless they were. Species that had obeyed the Council out of respect now obeyed only out of fear. And fear, as humans were about to prove, was not as strong as hatred. Engineer Wu Jin unveiled humanity's greatest technological achievement: ships that could cloak themselves using harmonic distortion fields. The vessels became invisible to Council sensors, allowing them to strike without warning. "We call it ghost technology," he explained to the assembled fleet commanders. "The enemy won't know we're there until we're already shooting." Captain Hai Jin, who had survived the massacre and been promoted to command her own task force, tested the new cloaking system. Her ship vanished from all sensors, becoming a phantom that could appear anywhere on the battlefield. "This changes everything," she reported. "We can hit them where they least expect it." The Villani refugees had also been busy. Though their numbers were small, they had knowledge that was invaluable. They knew the locations of Council supply depots, the schedules of patrol fleets, and the weaknesses of different Council species. The Saurians are physically powerful, but slow to react, Kiravel explained to human tactical officers. The hive mind species are very intelligent, but become confused if their command structure is disrupted. The energy collective beings are nearly invulnerable, but require special containment fields that can be overloaded. President Tejo stood before the assembled fleet as it prepared to launch. 300 warships hung in space around Earth, each one carrying the hopes and anger of an entire species. The ships gleamed with crystal technology and hummed with harmonic energy. 1 year ago, the Council tried to break our spirit, the President said over the fleet communication system. They killed our friends. They destroyed our colonies. They thought they were teaching us our place in the galaxy. His voice grew harder. Today we teach them something in return. We teach them that humanity's place in this galaxy is wherever we choose to stand. And right now, we choose to stand over the wreckage of every Council ship we can find. The fleet began to move, hundreds of ships accelerating toward hyperspace jump points. Their destination was not Earth's defense, but the Council's frontier, territories. This would not be a defensive war. This would be a war of liberation and revenge. As the ships disappeared into hyperspace, Kiravel sang a song of hope and vengeance. Her people had been nearly destroyed, but they were not defeated. With human courage and Villani wisdom working together, they would make the Council pay for every life lost at Haven's Rest. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you made enemies of both the most peaceful species and the most stubborn species in known space. The Council's 1,000-year reign of terror was about to face its first real challenge, and humanity was just getting started. The first Council outpost never saw them coming. Admiral So Young's task force materialized out of hyperspace using their new ghost technology, invisible to every sensor the enemy possessed. The Council garrison was having a normal day, bullying local traders and collecting tribute from frightened alien merchants when death arrived without warning. Target their command center first, So Young ordered from the bridge of her flagship Eternal Vigil. Then their weapons platforms. Leave their communication array for last. I want them to send a message to their masters. The human ships decloaked simultaneously, appearing like vengeful spirits around the Council station. Harmonic weapons fired in perfect synchronization, tearing through shields that had never failed before. The station's hull began to resonate, at frequencies that made the metal scream and crack. Within minutes, the supposedly invincible Council outpost was a cloud of debris. The few surviving Council officers managed to send a panicked transmission before their communication array was destroyed. Unknown attackers with impossible technology. Base Xerion 7 destroyed. Send help. But help would not come in time. Admiral So Young's fleet was already jumping to their next target, leaving only wreckage and confused survivors behind. Captain Inho commanded the dreadnought Final Judgment in a different part of Council space, hunting bigger prey. His target was a Council patrol fleet that had been terrorizing neutral shipping lanes for decades. The enemy ships were massive and heavily armed, confident in their superiority. "Sir, we've located the target fleet," reported his tactical officer. 12 heavy cruisers and their escorts. They're attacking a merchant convoy from the Narian Republic. Inho watched the tactical display with cold anger. The Council ships were destroying unarmed cargo vessels, killing innocent traders just to steal their goods. It was the same casual cruelty that had destroyed Haven's Rest. "All ships, attack Formation Delta," he ordered. "Show them what real warships can do." The human Villani fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. The Council ships tried to turn their weapons on the new arrivals, but they were too slow. Human ships moved like dancers, guided by Villani harmonic senses that could predict enemy movements. Captain J. Min, Inho's first officer, coordinated the attack with deadly precision. Resonance torpedoes away. Target the lead cruiser's reactor core. The Council ship had armor that could withstand nuclear weapons, but it had never faced harmonic resonance before. The torpedo hit and sent waves of destructive frequency through the enemy hull. The massive cruiser began to tear itself apart from the inside, its own armor becoming a weapon against it. "Impossible," transmitted the Council fleet commander. "What are these weapons?" Captain Inho answered personally. Justice. The battle was over in 20 minutes. 12 Council heavy cruisers and their escorts became expanding clouds of gas and metal. The rescued Nerian merchants broadcast news of the victory across the galaxy. Humanity had returned and they were winning. Across Council space, similar scenes were playing out. Human task forces appeared without warning, destroyed their targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The ghost ships had become the Council's worst nightmare. Captain Hyojin led the most daring mission of all. Intelligence from their alien allies had revealed the location of a secret Council prison world, where they kept political prisoners from dozens of species. The planet was heavily defended, but Hyojin had a plan. "We go in fast and quiet," she explained to her. "Strike team. Use the resonance bombs to disable their orbital platforms, then land troops to free the prisoners. Every life we save is a victory against the Council." Her ship, now called the Defiance Hope, in honor of her sacrifice at Haven's Rest, led 5 other vessels through the prison world's defense grid. The Council had never imagined that anyone would be crazy enough to attack such a heavily fortified target. The orbital defense platforms were the latest Council technology, armed with planet-killer weapons like the ones used at Haven's Rest. But the harmonic resonance bombs worked perfectly. The platforms simply fell apart, their weapons powering down as their control systems failed. Human and Volani soldiers landed on the prison world and found horrors that made them sick to their stomachs. The Council had been torturing prisoners from hundreds of species, conducting medical experiments and breaking the spirits of anyone who dared to resist their rule. "Get everyone out," Captain Hyojin ordered. "I don't care if we have to carry them. No one gets left behind." They rescued over 50,000 prisoners that day. Word of the liberation spread across the galaxy faster than light, carried by the freed prisoners to their homeworlds. The Council was no longer invincible. Someone was finally fighting back and winning. But the Council's real test came when they tried to stop the human advance at the fortress world of Dominion's Crown. This was the Council's greatest military base, protected by over 200 warships and orbital fortresses that could destroy entire fleets. Hagemarch Vextar himself commanded the defense, still burning with rage over humanity's defiance. He had gathered the Council's finest ships and most experienced commanders. This time he would crush the human rebels once and for all. "Let them come," Vextar snarled to his subordinates. "I want to watch these mammals burn just like their friends did at Haven's Rest." Admiral So Young brought the entire human fleet to Dominion's Crown. 300 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls glowing with harmonic energy. This would be the largest space battle in galactic history. "Today we end this," she broadcast to her fleet. "For Haven's Rest, for New Harmony, for Crystal Falls, for every innocent life the Council has destroyed." The battle began with the Council, fleet launching everything they had. Thousands of missiles and energy beams filled space between the two fleets. But the human ships danced through the fire like ghosts, their phase shields allowing them to dodge attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. Captain Inho's dreadnought Final Judgment led the charge into the heart of the Council formation. His harmonic cannons carved through enemy hulls like hot knives through ice. Behind him, dozens of human ships followed, each one fighting with the fury of a species that had seen its friends murdered. The Council's numerical advantage meant nothing when their weapons couldn't hit their targets. Human ships phased through solid matter, appeared behind enemy vessels, and struck from impossible angles. The Volani harmonic technology had given humanity abilities that the Council couldn't understand or counter. "Their shields are adapting to our weapons," reported Captain Hyojin as she led her task force against the fortress's gun platforms. "But they can't adapt fast enough." She was right. The Council's defensive systems were designed to handle conventional weapons, not harmonic resonance that could tear apart matter at the atomic level. One by one, the mighty fortress guns fell silent as their control systems were shredded by frequencies that made metal sing and break. The turning point came when Kiravel activated the ultimate weapon she and Dr. Yunseo had developed. The harmonic resonance bomb was fired from the heart of the human fleet, its energy waves spreading outward at the speed of light. Every council ship caught in the wave simply came apart. Hulls that had survived 1,000 battles dissolved like sand. Weapons that had destroyed worlds fell silent forever. In 30 seconds, half the council fleet ceased to exist. Hegemarch Vextar watched his mighty armada disintegrate around him. "What is this witchcraft?" he screamed into his communicator. "How are they doing this?" Admiral So Young answered him directly. "We learned from our friends, the ones you murdered. They taught us that there are forces in the universe more powerful than your weapons, forces like friendship, loyalty, and justice." The battle was over. Dominion's crown, the Council's greatest fortress, fell in 6 hours. Hegemarch Vextar and his surviving officers were captured alive, though many of their soldiers chose to fight to the death rather than surrender. As news of the victory spread across the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. Species that had been under Council rule for centuries began to rebel. The Tauran Confederacy declared independence. The Silicon Syndicate expelled Council governors from their worlds. The Plasma Collective cut off energy supplies to Council territories. The 1,000-year reign of the Galactic Council was crumbling. Their fleets were destroyed, their fortresses captured, their authority shattered. The species they had oppressed for so long were finally free to choose their own destinies. President Tejo received reports from across the galaxy as the Council's empire collapsed. Over 300 species have declared independence in the last week, Intelligence Director Miran reported. The Council's remaining forces are in full retreat to their core worlds. "And their leadership?" the President asked. "Most of the High Command was captured at Dominion's crown," Admiral So Young replied. "Including Hegemarch Vextar. They're being held for trial." President Tejo nodded grimly. "Good. It's time for the galaxy to see real justice. Not the Council's version, but actual justice." In her crystal garden aboard the refugee ship, Kiravel sang a song of victory and sorrow. Her people had been avenged, but the cost had been terrible. Millions were dead, and the galaxy would need time to heal from centuries of Council oppression. But for the 6 months after the fall of Dominion's crown, Earth's skies were filled with ships from across the galaxy. Representatives from over 200 species had come to witness the signing of the new Galactic Charter. The blue world that had once been unknown to most of the galaxy was now the center of a new era of peace and cooperation. President Tejo stood at the podium in the great assembly hall that had been built in orbit around Earth. Behind him sat delegates from species that had never spoken to each other before the Council's fall. Aquatic Nerians floated in special water tanks next to gaseous ethereals contained in energy fields. Rock-skinned titans sat beside crystalline beings from a dozen different worlds. "Today we replace tyranny with freedom," the President said, his words translated into hundreds of languages and harmonic frequencies. "We replace fear with hope. We replace the rule of the strong over the weak with the protection of the weak by the strong." The new Galactic Charter was nothing like the Council's oppressive accords. Every species had an equal voice in the galactic government, regardless of their military power or technological advancement. No single species could dominate the others. Decisions would be made by consensus, not by force. Admiral So Young, now bearing the title of First Commander of the Galactic Defense Fleet, explained the new military structure to the assembled delegates. "The Defense Fleet will have ships and crews from every willing species. Its only mission is to protect the innocent and ensure that no group ever again gains the power to oppress others." The fleet was already taking shape. Human dreadnoughts worked alongside Nerian deep space carriers and ethereal energy ships. Former Council vessels that had been captured were being retrofitted with harmonic technology and crewed by mixed species teams. Captain Inho, now an admiral himself, commanded one of these integrated fleets. His flagship still bore the name Final Judgment, but its mission had changed from vengeance to protection. Half his crew were humans, a quarter were Villani survivors, and the rest came from dozens of different species. "It's working better than anyone expected," he reported to the Defense Council. "The different species bring different strengths. Human tactical thinking, Villani harmonic sensitivity, Nerian deep space navigation, ethereal energy manipulation. Together, We're stronger than any single species could be alone. But the most important event was yet to come. The trial of the Council leadership had been the galaxy's most watched event in centuries. Hegemarch Vextar and his fellow war criminals sat in a courtroom on Earth, facing charges of genocide, slavery, and crimes against sentience. Judge Kyung Ho, a human legal expert who had studied the laws of dozens of species, presided over the proceedings. The courtroom was filled with survivors from across the galaxy, beings who had suffered under Council rule for generations. The defendants are charged with the systematic oppression of over 1,000 sentient species, Judge Kyung Ho announced. They are charged with the genocide of entire worlds, including the massacre at Haven's Rest, New Harmony, and Crystal Falls. Kiravel took the stand to testify about the destruction of the Vellani worlds. Her crystal body still bore the harmonic scars of that terrible day, frequencies of pain and loss that would never fully heal. They didn't just kill our bodies, she sang, her words translated for the court. They tried to kill our hope. They wanted to show the galaxy that friendship was weakness, that compassion was foolishness. She looked directly at Hegemarch Vextar as she continued. But they were wrong. The humans who died trying to protect us proved that friendship is the strongest force in the universe. Their sacrifice gave birth to this new galaxy we're building today. Vextar remained defiant, even in defeat. You cannot judge us, he snarled, at the court. We ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. We brought order to chaos. We made the hard decisions that weak species like yours could never make. Judge Kyung Ho's response was calm but firm. You brought fear, not order. You brought slavery, not peace. And now you will face the consequences of your actions. The trial lasted for months, with witnesses from hundreds of worlds testifying to Council atrocities. The evidence was overwhelming. When the verdicts were finally read, Vextar and his co-conspirators were found guilty on all charges. The court sentences you to life imprisonment, Judge Kyung Ho announced. You will spend the rest of your lives thinking about the pain you caused, in the hope that someday you might understand the difference between justice and vengeance. The galaxy watched as the former rulers were led away to secure facilities. Justice had been served, but without the cruelty that had characterized Council rule. Even the worst criminals would be treated humanely, showing the galaxy that the new order was truly different. Meanwhile, the reconstruction of the destroyed worlds had begun. Chief Engineer Wu Jin led massive terraforming projects that used technology shared freely between dozens of species. Haven's Rest was being rebuilt, but not as it was before. The new world would be a memorial to those who died, and a symbol of what different species could accomplish when they worked together. Captain Dong Min, now elderly, but still serving as an advisor to the new government, stood on the surface of the reborn Haven's Rest. The crystal gardens were growing again, tended by both human and Vellani children who had been born after the massacre. Do you think they would be proud of what we built? He asked Kiravel, who stood beside him watching the children play. I know they would be, she replied, her song filled with hope instead of sorrow for the first time in years. We didn't just survive. We created something beautiful from the ashes of their sacrifice. The memorial walls were the most moving part of the rebuilt world. They contained the names of every being who had died at Haven's Rest, New Harmony, and Crystal Falls. Human and Vellani names were carved together in both crystal and metal, showing that in death as in life the two species were united. The inscription above the main memorial was simple, but powerful. They died as strangers to each other. They are remembered as family to all. President Tae Ho, now holding the title of First Speaker of the Galactic Assembly, visited the memorial often. Each name represented a life cut short, a dream that would never be fulfilled, a family that would never be whole again. But their sacrifice had not been in vain. The galaxy was free. Over 1,000 species now governed themselves according to their own values and traditions. The strong protected the weak not because they were forced to, but because it was the right thing to do. The defense fleet patrolled the galaxy with ships that sang harmonic songs as they traveled between the stars. Pirates and slavers learned to fear the sight of vessels crewed by multiple species working in perfect harmony. The galaxy had new guardians, and these guardians would never forget the lessons learned at Haven's Rest. Captain Hyojin, now an admiral commanding her own sector, fleet often reflected on how much had changed. The scared young officer who had watched worlds burn had become a leader respected across the galaxy. Her ships protected trade routes and colonies that spanned dozens of star systems. "Remember," she told her mixed-species crews during their briefings, "we're not just keeping the peace, we're protecting the dream that different people can live together as friends." The children born on the rebuilt worlds would grow up in a galaxy where cooperation was normal and oppression was unthinkable. They would learn the history of the Council Wars, but they would also learn that evil could be defeated when good people stood together. Years passed and the new galactic order grew stronger. Trade flourished between species that had never met before the Council's fall. Scientific discoveries were shared freely, leading to advances that benefited everyone. Art and culture flowed between worlds like water finding its level. But the most important change was harder to measure. Fear had been replaced by trust. Suspicion had given way to friendship. The galaxy had learned that diversity was not a source of conflict, but a source of strength. Kiravel, now very old even by Villani standards, spent her final years teaching young beings about the history of their peoples. She told them about the dark days when the Council ruled through fear, and about the humans who had sacrificed everything to stand with their friends. "Never forget," she would sing to her students, "that the universe is only as cruel as we allow it to be. When good people choose to act, even the strongest tyranny can fall." On Earth, in the museum dedicated to the Council Wars, visitors could see the preserved bridge of the original Horizon's Edge, the ship that had first made contact with the Villani refugees. Captain Dongmin's command chair sat empty, a reminder of the man who had chosen friendship over fear. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson in the universe, that there is no force stronger than people who refuse to abandon each other, no matter what the cost. The Council had ruled through strength and fear for 1,000 years, but they had been defeated by something they never understood: friendship, loyalty, the simple belief that all sentient beings deserve to be free. The new galactic order would last for millennia, protected by species who remembered the price of freedom and were willing to pay it again if necessary. And in the crystal gardens of Haven's Rest, human and Villani children continued to play together under alien stars, living proof that the universe was capable of healing even the